This podcast discusses themes of mental health, which some people may find emotive, such as suicide or other adult-themed content. The information contained in this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. All views expressed are solely those of individuals involved and do not represent the opinions of any entity whatsoever with which we have been, are now, or will be affiliated. The information is not meant to diagnose or treat any mental health condition. If you're experiencing mental health symptoms, we encourage you to contact a mental health service within your community. If you're experiencing a mental health emergency, please seek the relevant support and interventions by presenting to your local accident and emergency department or contacting the relevant emergency services.
You're listening to the Men's Mental Health Podcast, The Man Hug.
Welcome to The Man Hug, the monthly men's mental health podcast. I'm Dean McShane.
I'm Dan Cooper.
I'm Ian Pearce-Hayes.
And I'm Conleth Kelly.
Each month we will discuss a different topic related to men's mental health, which will include a guest speaker who will discuss their own personal story. And each month we will also be showcasing an organisation or charity within the Merseyside area who work within mental health to help build your signposting skills. Hello, welcome to this month's Man Hug. This month we are focusing on the theme of community work, and we've got an amazing guest coming up. But first off, I just want to say that this is not the original planning of this episode. Sadly, we did record it, but we had some gremlins in the system for the first time and some technical issues which we couldn't resolve, sadly. So we unfortunately lost one of our main recordings. So we've had to go back to base and see what we can do to put this episode out on time. So we've decided for this one, what we'll do is we will have our main guest still, Joe Kiney Whitmore, and us as the host. We'll have a bit of a chat around community work. Sadly, we were joined by Writing on the Wall's Mike Morris, who's the co-director and founder of the Writing on the Wall, but sadly the recording was lost and we've not been able to get Mike back in time. So what we are going to do is we're going to get Mike in at a later date, and first off, we are joined by Joe Kiney Whitmore, and Joe is an amazing artist. He's deeply connected to themes of addiction, recovery, and mental health. Joe, welcome to the Man Hug.
Hiya, thanks for having me.
It's lovely to have you with us. So first off, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name's Joe Kiney Whitmore. I'm a full-time artist, and I'm also in recovery, 5.5 years, and yeah, at the minute, what I'm trying to do is just sort of fuse those two things together. So thinking about how, we can find community in recovery with other creative people. But yeah, I'm a full-time practicing artist. I'm an oil painter. I do a lot of figurative painting. I like going out into the landscape painting. And I do a lot of work in the community as well with a variety of groups.
Amazing. And that's what we've based this theme on is the community and how that enables our own well-being, our own recovery in your instance as well. So just tell us a little bit about what you're doing in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. So over the last few years, I've done a few really interesting projects, I would say. Like one of the main ones was going into a care home, spending time with the residents there, dementia care home, and painting the portraits and giving them kind of an afternoon of one-to-one just company, really, as well as like having this like art project on the go as well. So at the end of the afternoon, they'd have a portrait of themselves to keep and, you know, perhaps give to a family member or a loved one. That was really successful. It got just picked up by the local press and they contacted me about it, going in for a few sessions over the summer. More recently, working with another artist in recovery over at Hay Hall, which is like a heritage woodland kind of place near us in Wigan. And we did a photography project there with some guys and girls in like early stages of recovery, and all the work was produced by them, and we installed it in the walled gardens as like a outdoor exhibition about this kind of place where creativity, nature, mindfulness, and all fuses together. Yeah.
Amazing. And you mentioned before how you've used art as a vehicle for your own recovery. How have you utilised that?
Yeah, it's been crucial, really. I mean, I've always done drawing and painting. It's always been like a massive passion of mine, and kept me, I don't know, sane at the best of times. But since coming into recovery, and especially like in the darker days of active addiction, like having a little sketchbook or a journal really helps to like just keep me on some kind of path. And now in recovery, it's like it's obviously my profession, but it's a spiritual practice for me, definitely. It's and by practice, it's something I try and do every day in some description, and I think it's quite comparable to meditation, developing that kind of practice, and it helps me to learn about myself and the world and other people as well.
So in terms of, when you like you'd take a pad and would you use that as kind of either expression emotion or was it for distraction? What kind of use did you get from that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I suppose it's a bit of both. It definitely helps me to express myself. A lot of times when I'm doodling or drawing things from imagination, like the finished result is quite telling of how I'm actually doing in my own head. And sometimes people notice it more than I do. So, you might get someone who sees the drawing and says, "Oh yeah, are you okay at the moment?" That sort of thing. But yeah, distraction, I'd say so. But for me, it's like a good kind of distraction because it definitely, I have a lot of like negative distractions in my life, like my phone as well and stuff. But like this sort of practice of making and being connected and sort of getting in that like flow state, as people say, is a really good way to, I guess, distract myself from certain things.
Does the final like production of an art piece, does that kind of bring you sort of like satisfaction and joy? Were you a pretty bad critique of yourself, or how does that process work?
Yeah, I think a lot of the like enjoyment comes in the process of making, but a lot of the pain does as well. It's always like, it's like up and down, that struggle, and like you're kind of like wrestling with it. Very rarely does it just kind of fly off the shelves like as you planned. And to be honest, a lot of artists say this, and I'm kind of the same. Like when something's done, I'm kind of done with it. Like it, I don't know. It just feels like it's served its purpose for me. I think my meaning really comes more from the process rather than the product. And in my own experience, like there's a very few paintings that I really look back on and have a real deep connection to. Most of them I've enjoyed making them, and I think they look good, and I love it when people purchase them, because they like them. But for me, it's about the process, I think, and just like reaching that space.
That's really interesting. We've had a lot of musicians on the podcast who say very similar about their songwriting. It's the compared to maybe performing live or what have you, it's the writing process that they most enjoy, the experimental part of putting a song together. Whether they're happy with the final product is always debatable as well. I suppose you have to listen to people like Brian Wilson, don't you? Who's never been happy with the sound of Pet Sounds, one of the greatest albums of all time. But I think that's art for you, isn't it, really?
100%.
Yeah. So how would you say sort of like engaging with your communities helped your own mental health?
Massively. I'm a big like proponent, and I push this a lot now, in my own communities. It's like helping other people is like just really crucial, and I think it's sort of, it's a way of getting out of self. It's a way of, I don't know, I say it all the time, but if you told me like 5-6 years ago that helping other people is going to be the best thing for helping you, I wouldn't have believed you, but it does turn out that that's been the case. I think there's something about giving back and giving of oneself. And okay, I do get paid for a lot of these jobs, but I do a lot of stuff where I'm not getting paid, so it's just about, without expectation, giving without expectation. And that it's really powerful, I think. And perhaps it's not something that gets done enough in today's society, having that space to just do stuff for other people.
Yeah, it really resonates. Again, with a lot of people that have come onto the podcast, maybe struggle with their own mental health, and then they found a purpose in their community of helping others, and it's massively helped their self-esteem and their confidence. Lots of developed new skills they didn't even know they had. And I think you're right, it's such a important thing, and I suppose for anyone kind of in recovery, would that be your advice, to engage with the community and maybe see what you can get back from it?
I'd say so, yeah. I mean, it's a complicated journey, isn't it? And like the first year of my recovery, I was just figuring out who I was again, I suppose. And I was like a little bit creative, but I wasn't massively creative. But like this whole community stuff has come as a kind of product of like doing that own inner work first. But yeah, I think like getting out of self and helping other people. And like you touched on, it seems to be a common theme that whatever great dark times you've had in your own life becomes like a source of power for you to help other people moving forwards, and me having these issues with alcohol and drugs in the past, I'm really passionate about helping others who are perhaps a few steps behind me. And you see that happening a lot, that pattern of like, I've had this really bad thing happen to me, how can I help people who are going through the same thing now?
Definitely. I think it's the power of lived experience as well. I think over the last 10 years, I've been training the next generation of student mental health nurses, and I tend to find the ones that really flourish are the ones that have either got lived experience of having mental health issues themselves or family members, and they've kind of lived and breathed it, and they just kind of get it. It's more than you can get out of a textbook, isn't it? And I think for the same in recovery, I think people will be more likely to reach out to people in a peer support kind of network where other people have experienced that.
Yeah.
As to a professional who's learned something in a textbook.
It's really true. It is. There's a great power in like, one person who's had that experience helping another who's going through it. And they say it in a lot of recovery communities, and it's not to say that the textbook is wrong, but there is something magic about spending time with someone who knows what you're going through, it sometimes the textbook knowledge can't even touch that. It's like just spending that quality time with someone who's grieving the same loss that you've grieved, or experiencing the same. It's the most powerful thing.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why likes of Alcoholics Anonymous and places like that have always done so well, is because you're in an environment of people who have gone through similar things to yourself. Yeah. There's a one of the stages, isn't there, or one of the texts in Alcoholics Anonymous where it says liberation and fellowship, and it's always stuck with me. That was, I think that what we're talking about today, being part of a community, is liberating, isn't it? You're not going to achieve things on your own. No man is an island, and all of that, really.
100%. And actually, just to dip back to your previous question about advice for like other creatives in recovery, it's like would be to get community, because I think there's this like real in my own experience, like when I was pretty ill, I was trying to lead this like rock and roll lifestyle, and you think you have to do everything on your own and like crazy party and like whatever. And I didn't really have real community then. I had this kind of like pseudo community of people, associates that I would go out and party with, and drink to excess and use drugs with, whatever it might have been. Whereas now, that real community it's not come naturally to me, but now that I've got it, it's become such a power in my own life. And I would definitely recommend like chipping away at that sort of exterior shell that you might have, and letting people in, and letting yourself out, just creating that sort of connection.
That's amazing. Really good advice. Your journey as well, in terms of you spoke about the art world, but in terms of other avenues that you've explored as well, you've mentioned about sort of faith and religion, and what sort of things have you done there?
I think I'm just a really curious person, so I do read a lot around the subjects of like spirituality, philosophy, faith, religion of all sorts. I mean, I don't have a religion as such that I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm traditionally religious. Like I'm not a Christian or Muslim or anything yet. I wouldn't never write it off. But I think one of the issues I had is like for a long time I kind of thought that everything revolved around me in some way, and now I think like bringing that faith in to the conversation it's about not needing to like intellectualize everything. I can just kind of put trust in something that is perhaps more powerful and more loving than I will ever be. And I don't know what it is, but it's just like the idea is really important for me. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Yeah. We've had quite a lot of guests who've explored similar things which have really helped them. And just emphasises the uniqueness of everyone and everyone's journey, and we're all individuals, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
It's fascinating. So you mentioned it as well at the start about one of the things you're looking to do is bring people in recovery into sort of like an art space. Is this something that you're doing kind of online, or is it sort of like face-to-face meetings? Or?
Yeah, well, currently it's just started online. I mean, I started this project like 3 years ago, and it kind of I stopped and started and stopped and started, and the working name at the moment is Creating Sobriety, because that's been my experience. I've had to create it, and I'm also creative, and I kind of like the name. And yeah, so there is an online space at the moment. I've just started a YouTube channel, which I'm putting more of my energy into because I like this slower pace of consumption, and I think the community on YouTube is much more genuine than I've experienced on like Instagram and TikTok or whatever, for example. So yeah, I would suggest people go and check some of those videos out. It's just my full name, Joe Kiney Whitmore, on YouTube for the moment. Just started. But yeah, Creating Sobriety, if you give that a Google as well with my name, there are some bits to follow, and it's really just getting started now. And I've got an in-person, like kind of semi-day retreat coming up at the back end of the year, which will be in collaboration with another friend of mine, and she does a lot of movement and yoga stuff.
Oh, wow.
So really thinking about wellness, as this like holistic, sort of package, and how we can bring a bit of creativity into that, and eating nice food mindfully, and doing some movement. But yeah, like as you touched on, like that fusion of creativity and recovery communities is something I want to like push moving forwards, because I have a great recovery community around me. And I have a great creative community around me, but there isn't much overlap, and a lot of the themes are similar. A lot of my creative friends have their own struggles with mental health or whatever, and some people I know in recovery are creative, but I do want to make this space because I just know that sort of myth of like being a tortured artist is still so alive and well.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and it's such a good place to bring people together, like-minded, who've had those similar experiences, and hopefully lots of collaboration can take place as well. It's always a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So with regards to your own art, you've had exhibitions recently then, so how can sort of like people follow, your work and see how you're getting on?
Definitely. Yeah, so space is online. I've got my own website, which is jkwhitmore.com. I'm on Instagram quite actively, Joe Kiney Whitmore. Again, the YouTube channel that I reference is just my full name again. But yeah, I've been on a few podcasts and whatever, and I've got online presence is decent now. I had a nice big exhibition, sort of I was working on from the beginning of this year up until a couple of months ago, which opened at a piano showroom in a neighbouring mill in Atherton, which is the outskirts of Manchester, and that was well received. The theme of it was really, I guess we've touched on about how creative people, musicians, dancers, artists, connect to some kind of like divinity through their own creative practice, and like the muse and all that kind of stuff comes into it. So that was really well received. We made a documentary about it and stuff. And the minute back in the studio, just kind of formulating some next steps and starting a new big painting, for example, and just ticking things over. Yeah.
Wow, brilliant. Yeah. And you run some classes as well from your studio?
That's right. Yeah. As of what would it be now? 6 weeks ago, I've restarted a life drawing class, which I've done before, and it's been really well received, and everyone likes coming to my studio. They find it quite calming, and they like the energy of the place. That's their words, not mine. And I'm hoping to like expand out a little bit more in, like I mentioned, the wellness space, and also perhaps more in-depth technical workshops about oil painting, about like the tradition of and the history of this craft, which I think is still really important. Yeah.
Brilliant. That sounds really really interesting. Lots going on, lots of plans for the future.
Yeah.
Busy times. Brilliant. Final sort of like advice that you'd kind of give. So if anyone's kind of listening and maybe they're looking for the next steps of getting some help, for example, what sort of advice would you sort of give to someone in these stages?
Yeah, early doors, I think it's acknowledging that you have the problem, is the first thing, and and then just appreciating that you will need help with it. You know, I've not met anyone who's dealt with addiction or mental health problems really successfully on their own.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't really want to prescribe like what kind of help you should look for, but you know, we've all got smartphones with the internet now, so put a bit of effort into researching and find what speaks to you. Community has been really powerful for me. But if you are also like a creative person who struggles with substances, I would say, firstly, is like just get a little daily practice on the go. It doesn't have to be anything special, you know. Doesn't have to be a huge accomplished oil painting or a symphony. You know, it can just be picking up your guitar for 10 minutes a day. And I think one thing I really struggled with in early recovery was like this feeling of inspiration. And I think early doors, it was helpful for me just to start, you know, and the inspiration kind of comes after. So yeah, I just keep it small, keep it steady, keep it consistent, and look for help. Find people who, you know, who you relate with and who have been through similar things to you, and I think you won't go far wrong. Yeah.
Brilliant advice. Yeah, really, really useful advice, and hopefully, you know, some people will take that message home with them as well. Thanks for being such an amazing guest. You know, we massively appreciate you coming onto the Man Hug, telling your own story, and obviously shining a light on the impact that being part of this community has had on your own recovery journey and your own sort of mental health. I think that's amazing. But it's lovely to see how, you know, you're now helping other people as well. I think that's always really such an inspirational thing, that when we get guests on who have come through the other end and now they're sort of giving back to the community, it's always such an amazing, rewarding thing to see, really.
Nice one.
Amazing. Thanks very much, Joe.
Yeah, thank you.
You're listening to the Men's Mental Health Podcast, The Man Hug.
Thanks, Dean. Apologies, obviously, from Mike Morris. We did have him when we interviewed him, and it was really nice to talk to Mike. But we'll definitely get him back. But the key thing that Mike was talking about, and obviously he's as a co-director for WoW, Writing on the Wall. He's played a big part and been there right from the initiation, really. And what Mike said is that, I mean, it's over 25 years old now, WoW. And it came from the background of the Dockers strike in the 90s in Liverpool, and came out from a film and project around that. Saw the setting up of the Casa in Liverpool, which is like a sort of community hub, which is used. I was in there just the other week for an initiative supporting things. So it came out from that, and Writing on the Wall really grew out from that. And I guess most people in Liverpool, and I would know it through its month-long festival. It's almost like a literary festival for the week. But when Mike was talking to us, what he said, they do two festivals. There's the Writing on the Wall Literary Festival, if you like, which takes place in May, and then there's the Black History festival in October, again both month long, but they also do, he said it was like the iceberg. That's the bit that people may see and know about it, and it obviously has amazing guests. I've seen Linton Kwesi Johnson, I've seen Benjamin Zephaniah, Irving Welsh, who's a great supporter of WoW. But what Mike also said is that it's important that they called it Writing on the Wall, and the writing is seen as a much more inclusive term rather than a literary, and it's not to knock literary festivals, but really in terms of the radicalism and the inclusion in terms of writing was much more important. But when we get Mike, he will clarify in terms of that. But what he said about the festivals, people known for the festivals, but they've been involved in terms of writing projects, supporting schools and communities all year long. And they have things like the Pulp Idol, which has been going for, I think it's 17 years, and that's like finalists where they get young people in terms of writing, and it's like with Heats, it's done very different to I think other. You don't just submit something; you're straight in with other writers and support. To Pulp Idol, they have Writer's Block, they have Recite. There's a number of projects that are year long that they are involved with. Across the Merseyside area, and their projects really support, women suffering domestic abuse, for skills for long-term unemployed, but they have a commitment, one, to community, but also that diversity and inclusion. And I think that's that's what's integral to writing on the wall. And hopefully when we get Mike back on in the near future, he can talk us through a little bit more in terms of what that actually looks like in terms of the community, in terms of all the different projects. The book we've just read Sick Mick, haven't we, by Brian Reed, and again that's published via Writing on the Wall. That's they've got a whole number of books. There's a bookshop that they have. It's just incredible what they do, the scope and range of things that they are involved with. So hopefully I've done something to whet people's appetite in terms of Writing on the Wall if you've not heard of it, but we'll get Mike on to fully explain that as well.
Amazing, thanks Ian. I think that's great. We've been able to shine a spotlight on some of the amazing work that WoW do. And I say it's just sad that we've had our very first technical issue in 2.5 years, but I suppose that's to come one day, didn't it? But we will get Mike on in the future to talk more about it. But yeah, check them out, as Ian just said. They are amazing, the work that they do, and the events that they put on as well are one that I always look out for each year as well.
You went to one earlier, during this festival, didn't we? Both did, but you went to one it was in the Liverpool Philharmonic, wasn't it?
I did, yeah. Went to see Armando Iannucci and also Phil Scratton as well, thanks to you.
Of course, I didn't go, did I?
Yeah. So I went a couple of times this year, but I think as well I went to the Two-Tone Story last year and British Music Experience with yourself, which again was an incredible event, covering music and arts as well, and again that sort of power of community. What we will do is we'll take a very short break, and then me and Ian are going to come back together and we're just going to have a little bit of a chat around our theme of community work.
You're listening to the Men's Mental Health Podcast, The Man Hug.
Okay, so the theme of community work, obviously our guests today, Joe, who is very active in his community, and he spoke very passionately about the rewards that doing community work has given himself in his own recovery journey. And then obviously we've been focusing on Writing on the Wall, which is a community-based project, which brings together a lot of people across all kinds of backgrounds. And obviously with Mike's work, he spoke as well about the effects that community work has had on himself and the effects that it's had in terms of his own well-being and the rewards that community work gives him. So as always, I thought let's have a little focus on the brain, see if there's any research out there that looks at things like neurotransmitters and the impact of, say, volunteering or engaging in things like activism within your community. And what I found from the research is that it does have a profound effect on both our neurotransmitter activity and our overall mental health as well. So some of the more common neurotransmitters that we've spoke about in the past, but when we're relating it to community work, dopamine, and we've spoke about this before, being our reward neurotransmitter. And when we help others, we activate the brain's reward system and we get that release of dopamine. So acts of kindness or altruism can trigger dopamine release, and it gives us a sense of pleasure and motivation, and it's often referred to as the helper's high, which is a lovely term, isn't it? We've spoke about oxytocin before. We often call it the love hormone, but when you look at bonding and trust in particular, we know that social connection through the likes of volunteering can increase oxytocin as well, which fosters trust and empathy and bonding, and it can reduce feelings of loneliness and promote a sense of belonging as well. Now, serotonin, our mood regulator, and we've spoke about before how, you know, the highest proportion of this is produced in the gut. But when we look at the effects of community work on our mood regulation, serotonin, we know that positive social interactions and meaningful engagements can boost our serotonin levels as well, and it helps to regulate our mood. It reduces anxiety. It can also combat low mood as well in terms of depression. Now, our endorphins we spoke about in terms of pain relief and euphoria, but physical activity often involved in volunteering, you know, for example, community cleanups or helping with events, this can again release endorphins. And these act as our natural painkillers and our mood enhancers. So yeah, for mental health benefits, there are many. Reduced stress is a big one. Engaging in purposeful activities can lower our cortisol levels, and we all know that those nasty cortisol levels are when we most feel the impact of stress. So knowing that, you know, by doing this community work or volunteering and engaging can actually lower cortisol levels, I think that should be enough for most of us to sign up to do something, really. Improvement in our self-esteem, so contributing to something larger than oneself fosters a sense of purpose and self-worth, which we know is always something that needs work on if our mood is low, with the likes of depression. Now, the research has also shown that regular volunteering is associated with lower rates of depression, and especially in older adults. We know once we get over the age of 65, when you look at research data, the rates of depression are on the increase, and that is often because of people's social groups. So people tend to find themselves more isolated the older that they get. And we know that by engaging through activities such as volunteering, we can lower that risk of depression. There's also as well enhanced cognitive function, so social and mental engagement can help maintain cognitive health, and it can delay age-related decline. I know that there's been a significant piece of work around dementia of late. Those that are isolated are at greater risk of developing dementia. It's one of the health inequalities of dementia. So again, if you think about keeping the brain active through engagements in the community, whether I say that is volunteering or through social groups, we know again we're stopping that risk. We're greatly reducing that risk of dementia and depression. So the more you engage, the more positive neurotransmitters are released, and it reinforces the behaviour and it improves mental health, and it creates a positive feedback loop of well-being and community connection. Yeah.
Totally makes sense, and it's interesting, isn't it? A lot of our guests that we've had on that have shared their experiences are also involved in terms of, I guess there's a little bit of, as you said, in terms of all the well-being, and that totally makes sense. There's that giving back, I think, as well, and certainly I'm thinking Everton in a community have been a big one that we've had guests that are totally involved with that. You know, former players, people linked with the club. In the rugby world, you know, it's giving back. It's from their experience and giving back, and I think it so makes sense. And I know, I guess I always felt there's some little guilt for me, I guess, in a sense that I always wanted to be a learning disability nurse, and I went for not the easy option, but I went for adult nursing. I wanted also to be a train driver and into mental health, if I'm honest, but I'm still not sure if I made the right choice. But what's interesting, so I've got involved, and I've been involved with a charity in Liverpool, Merseyside charity, with adults with learning disabilities, and I've been involved with them since about 2012. But for me, what I get all that, what you're saying in terms of the brain, that I can really identify with that. But I guess it's reciprocal in the sense that sometimes I'm not sure what I bring to the equation. But you do in terms of that commitment and your involvement, but you also learn from the people in the organisation. And we're involved with so many, it's only a small charity, but so many aspects in terms, there's all sorts of different clubs, and you know, one of the difficulties with adults with learning disability, there's nothing after 18. You know, it's a difficult provision up until you're 18, but after 18 there's very little, and that's where MOLE, the charity I'm involved with, came involved. So they were setting up sort of, one of the things we were doing was actually about using public transport to get around the city. So helping, young adults to navigate the city via the bus and stuff like that. Then there's women's group, men's group, all sorts of different things, cooking. We've done all sorts of amazing things, and it really enhances people's lives, but it enhances yours as well. I've learned so much from it, from the different projects we're involved with. It is a real feel-good factor, I think, and you only get back what you put in, I think in a sense. So that's why I'm involved, I think. What about yourself, Dean? I know tell us about your the organisations that you volunteer and associated with, because I know it's a big thing in your
I think it always has been in my life. I think when I reflect in terms of my journey into mental health, I don't think I would have got into the career that I did of mental health nursing and obviously becoming a lecturer. I don't think I would have done that unless I'd volunteered, which is really interesting. So I remember starting off at a day centre, and I worked with a men's group who would attend the day centre, and I at the time I was very musically minded, and I used to go in and record this little music group that they had there, and put some of their tracks down on them to take home, and run some little open mic nights, and then volunteered taking them to the football matches and things. And it was only through other people saying, you should go down this line of work, that actually opened that door for me. So I'm always thankful that if I hadn't been a volunteer, I wouldn't have had the career that I've had, which has always been so enjoying, such an enjoying thing for me over the years and working in mental health. But yeah, historically I've done a lot of fundraising as well. I've seen how a lot of charities have helped either friends or families, and I've always felt it'd be good to give back. So I've organised concerts over the years for Teenage Cancer Trust for many years, because they've helped family and friends, and other charities as well. Put on one a few years ago for the local fan support and food banks, who our next guest, Ian Byrne, can come on and tell us a lot more about fan support and food banks. So yeah, I've done an awful lot in terms of fundraising, and I think the reason for that has always been because unless you roll your sleeves up, you kind of feel that no one else is going to do it. And then when you do it, it can be very stressful organising these events, but it's very rewarding at the end, especially when you're able to raise a figure of money, for example, for a charity. It's extremely rewarding. Lots of other things. I think over the last 10 years in particular, I've been a volunteer for the Alzheimer's Society as a dementia ambassador, running dementia friends sessions, trying to raise awareness of dementia. Playlist for Life, who we did a whole podcast with Nasha around personalised playlists. I've been a spokesperson for them for maybe 8 or 9 years, and I was on the Fighting Dementia podcast recently, a local podcast talking about the power of music and dementia, and that is all of the volunteer roles that I have in terms of Merseyside Dementia Friendly Radio, where I'm a volunteer director, and the Playlist for Life role. And then there's just other things. I'd always like to be part of engaging in the local community, and often if you can do that through volunteering, there's a lovely thing that we do in my area called the Wombles, which me and my wife got involved in a couple of years ago, because we love walking, and we go into our green spaces and we walk a lot. And I think it was during lockdown when you had your hours prison walk, where you could go walking into these green spaces, and just seeing litter and poo bags and things really annoyed me. And then I seen a couple of people filling these orange bin bags with little litter pickers. I remember speaking to them saying, God, aren't you amazing doing this? And they told me all about this little Facebook group they've got called the Wombles, and they meet a couple of times a week to litter pick. And so we'll get involved in anything like that as well, because you should kind of be proud of your community in a way, shouldn't you? And often if your community is left behind by, say, lack of funding, it's people power, isn't it? It's about people coming together and doing whatever they can just to make things better, and I think that epitomises it really. Locally though, if people are looking to volunteer, I always rave about Liverpool LCVS. They're based on Dale Street, and they work with local charities and volunteer services. But again, if you're just looking for what volunteer options there are, you can go on there, and all of the charities across the Northwest will be on there, and there's roles where, you know, if you can give 1 hour a week, or if you want to give, you know, a couple of days a week, there'll be a role for you in there. And if you've got skills and if you've got interests, harness those for your volunteering as well. I say I've always been so passionate about music, so every time I'm volunteering for the likes of Playlist for Life, I think my passion comes out because I love music and I love helping people, and the two is just a marriage in heaven, really. So I think if you find something that you're really interested and passionate about, it doesn't feel like you're working, it doesn't feel like you're volunteering, or it's too much hard work. You're doing something that you enjoy.
Totally. I think you've picked on something there about making a match, isn't it? Yeah. So I remember my involvement with Mole in terms of the moving on with life and learning was our student nurses would do a placement with this with adults with learning disability, and I understand it's not for everyone, but what was interesting was that it wasn't just like a placement, well, it was a placement, but they'd start off, who are you and what do you bring here? So it's looking at what skills that you have. So the students used to always come back, we love it because we don't have to, it's not 9 to 5, you don't have to wear a uniform. There was lots of pluses, but then it's what do you bring into this, and some of the skills and expertise and interests that the young people had was amazing. And they always, it's what I was saying there about that reciprocal element of it. What you bring can really enhance the experience, and we had some amazing students with their experience, and I think that was always the key. You bring something, you get something from yourself, but you bring something to that equation, and it's that reciprocity as well, isn't it? Which is such a lovely thing. Whether it's in your community or part of your community, it's a powerful thing, I think.
Definitely. I think it makes people stand out. When I have student nurses, for example, and they're interested in working in an area once they're qualified, it's always about selling yourself at that interview, isn't it? But if you say, during your 3 years of your education, you also did this volunteering on top of you, straight away you're standing out from the rest of the crowd. It's really great for career development and giving yourself further opportunities, and the networking often that comes from volunteering as well can open doors for you. I know over the years for myself, I've met some incredible people that I just would never have had that opportunity if I hadn't gone, do you know what, I'm going to come and give a couple of hours of my time to come and help out. Some of those, friendships that'll last a lifetime, really. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. That's been my experience as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a powerful thing, isn't it?
Yeah. What's your advice then, Ian, for anyone? Because, I totally understand in this day and age, it's very hard for people to dedicate time to community work or activism or volunteering, whatever it is. But what's your sort of like final advice for people?
It would be that what you said there. It's about that match, isn't it? You've got skill, you've got a skill set and stuff yourself, and I think it's finding something that works for you. There's loads of opportunities. Everyone's looking for some aspect, and I think it's just getting out there and hopefully finding that right one and that right place that you connect and you actually make that difference to people. And it's that in itself is an amazing thing, and it's reciprocal, and it's looking at that you have a skill set, and it's then looking at something that you're interested in that moves or motivates you, and then that will work. I think.
Amazing. Thanks, Ian. Before we finish, we don't normally tell people about the next guests for the next month, but we're so close into next month, we're going to do it. So next month we'll be focusing on food in particular, the impacts of food and mental health. Because again, it's a really important thing. There's many angles that people have wanted us to explore in relation to food, whether it's food and mood, food poverty. So we've got MP Ian Byrne, who's going to join us next month. And Ian has been a catalyst. When you look at things around community action, far before he was an MP, people knew Ian from things such as fan support and food banks. And when you look at Liverpool and Everton in particular, where this project started, it was about, again, that community action of, at the moment we've got a lot of food banks, many of these have got empty shelves. I know we have 50,000 fans coming every week to these matches. If everyone brought a can, that would be enough. And then that took off so much that this is now fan sport and food banks. Every Premier League club across the country has, these fan sport and food bank networks. It's an amazing thing, just a simple initiative, but again, it is going back up to that community action and what we've just been talking about. So we'll link into next month's around that community action, but we will be focusing on food, and it's a really interesting subject. We'll be focusing on young people and food, and we'll be focusing on mood and food, and the importance of things such as a healthy diet for a healthy mind, and the realisation around things like food poverty and Ian's campaign around right to food as well. So we're looking forward to that one as well, aren't we, Ian?
We certainly are.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks very much, everyone. And we are once again sorry that this has not been the podcast we did initially advertised, but hopefully you've enjoyed it anyway.
If you or anybody else you know is struggling with their mental health, visit hubofhope.co.uk or download the app today and find local and national mental health support.
So follow us on Instagram at the Man Hug Podcast.